while it's on my mind, concerning a sergeant. At the back end of 1941, I went with a draft of about 50 men to make up a unit that was going overseas. That was a different battalion to the one I was in, you see. And I'd wanted to get, it was the original battalion I'd joined when I was 17, and they went to France in 1940, and I was underage, but I was always anxious to get back to them. So when I got this chance, when I saw the notice on the board that they wanted volunteers to make them up, I put my name on the list, and I'll just remarking on this while it's in my mind. We were billeted then down in Berkshire, in an old country house about 3 stories high. I was up on the top floor, and there were no lights there, apart from oil lamps. Everybody's walking down with little oil lamps. And in the passageway one night, the sergeant major of the company I was in met me on this halfway down this passageway, and he said to me, "Oh, by the way, Patterson," he said, "am I mistaken, or did I see your name on the list of volunteers for posting to the 8th Battalion?" So I said, "No, that's right, sir." So he said, "Well," he said, "I suppose you know they're going abroad." I said, "Yes, I understand that, sir." He said, "Well, I thought you had more bleeding oil in your can than that." And I'm just telling you that to illustrate the types that are, not only in wartime, not only in the army, you're meeting them all the time, these bloody bluffers. That fellow was a sergeant major. On the face of it, he's supposed to be, you know, a leading light in the bloody effort in the fight against the enemy, the Germans, the Japanese, and the bloody Italians, as it was at the time. But all he was thinking of, obviously, was himself, and he was criticising, he was looking down his nose at me, in effect. He was saying, "Well, you bleeding idiot." You see what I mean? That's what those are. I'm saying this mainly for Jay's benefit, because these are the buggers you've got to be wary of in life. On the face of it, oh aye, they're all brass buttons and bulled up and they look the part, but underneath they're nothing of the bloody sort. Anyway, what happened there was that I went with this draft to the 8th Battalion, and they were stationed in Hull at the time, a little place called Cottingham. I think it's the largest village in England, Cottingham. I seem to have read that somewhere. And it's a few miles outside Hull, as I say. And I had to report to a sergeant named Blackshaw. But I didn't know Blackshaw, of course. So I went on this parade ground where there were quite a few Bren carriers lined up. And I approached one of the carriers. There was a bloke stood up in the front of the carrier. I didn't know him either. Learned later that his name was Horace. But you couldn't judge him by his name. There was nothing Horace-y about him. Anyway, I said, "I'm looking for Sergeant Blackshaw." So he pointed across to where there were a couple of blokes stood. And the taller bloke I noticed was a bit round-shouldered, which was unusual because there weren't many round-shouldered blokes in the army, especially sergeants. So he said, "That's him." He said, "George and Charlie." So I said, "George and Charlie?" He said, "Aye, that's George and that's Charlie on his bleeding back." Anyway, I didn't have much more to do with Blackshaw after that until we got to Kohima. And I remember we were on the hill I was talking about before, when I was talking about Glover reading the paper, you know. And when we withdrew from this hill, but they left nearly a platoon of us as a sort of a rear guard while the rest of the battalion got off the place. And George and Charlie was left with another sergeant in charge of this rear guard. And we were split up into 2 parties. Now, when we went down the hill, it was dark. You know, it was late at night. We were pulling out late at night, and the Blackshaw and the other sergeants had already been on a recce in daylight that afternoon to find the way back. They had a map, and somebody showed them the way back anyway, down to the main road, which was the main Kohima Info road. And We set off in the two parties, and they stopped that often arguing about which was the way. But the blokes got fed up and we were all tired. You don't get much bloody sleep. And I noticed some old Japanese trucks by the side of the track. There were 2 or 3 of them, and they were the old style. They were big trucks, 300 weight or so, and they had the old long running board, big mud guards at the front, the old style that stuck out, you know, and running down to a running board. So I seized the opportunity while they were arguing. Everybody was stood around not knowing which way to go or what to do. I lay down on this running board, and I shoved my pack up as we used to do under my head, the back of my neck, and dozed off. I don't know how long I'd been dozed off, but I don't know how long I'd been dozing, but somebody gave me a nudge and said, "Come on, we're moving." So I was up on my feet again, and I followed them and went down. Well, then we came to a T-junction in the track, and that was another halt. And these 2 silly buggers started arguing again. You see, one of them thought that we should go left, and the other one thought he remembered that they went right. So I thought, what a bloody performance this is. Anyway, the other sergeant took his half the platoon to the left, and George and Charlie took us to the right. And incidentally, George and Charlie was right in the end. It was the right road. But we followed this track down for a while, and we came to the main Kohima Info Road. And we turned right again on the Info Road, the way we should be going. And we're not gone far before we came across a blazing. We could see it long before we got to it. There was a tank ablaze on the road. It was going like buggery, you know. It was stationary, but it was you know, on fire. Anyway, we halted before the glare of this tank, and again, as I say, everybody being tired, they all flopped down by the roadside. And George and Charlie said, "Well, okay, I want 2 volunteers to reconnoitre around this tank," and nobody made a move. So he started detailing blokes. One of the blokes he detailed was a little fella named Renshaw. Well, you can tell his nickname was the Sparrow. And the other fella that he detailed was an old soldier named Heppenstall. And Heppenstall had settled down on this grass verge sort of thing alongside the road. He was on his back. He put his arms up behind his neck and he pushed his pack up. He pushed his helmet forward over his forehead and he shoved his pack forward as a pillow. And Renshaw started to complain right away, you see, because of course it was a bit dodgy. Nobody wanted to move around this bloody tank. Didn't know what was on the other side of it. And it was in full, you know, it was well lit up with the blaze. All the roads you could see was well lit up. You couldn't have crept round there unseen, I should say. Anyway, as I say, Renshaw was arguing with Blackshaw, and Heppenstall just crossed his legs, lying on his back, as I say, and said, "Fuck you, Blackshaw. I've got a wife and 1 at home." And that it tickled me at the time, because a wife and 1 is army talk. They're not a wife and 1, they say a sergeant and 1 or a corporal and 1. What they mean to say is a sergeant and 1 fusilier or 1 other rank, you know. It's sort of army lingo, but he was absolutely unconcerned. And the outcome of that was that we all charged round the tank, shoulder to shoulder. We went like blazes, which was against all army training. You're supposed to go around in single file in a case like that, because if anybody does spot you, somebody's got you lined up in his sights. At least he can only knock one of you off at a time, you see, before the others get the message. But if you go around shoulder to shoulder like we did, they can get the bloody lot of you in one. But it was a case of safety in numbers, and everybody felt the same. Well, after the Kohima battle was over, we were camped on the bivouacked on the hillsides under tarpaulin sheets and whatever tents they had, you know, and we were there for quite a few weeks while we took in reinforcements and reorganised sort of thing. But the day we moved out to a place called Uckrell, and it was quite a march away. And as we left the hillside, you know, as always, you get blokes bunching, and it's a case of walking forward 100 yards and then you come to a halt. It's almost like traffic jams in holiday times on the motorways, you know. Then you move forward again 100 yards and you come to a halt again. Well, it just so happened that as we moved off in single file down this hillside, the medical officer, our medical officer, had a tent part way down. I always remember it was a dark green canvas tent, and he was attending to the blokes who'd gone sick. You see, reported sick. And as we halted on one of these halt periods, waiting to move on, I stopped right outside the tent. So I sat down on a rock and I could hear every word that was said in the tent. And obviously George and Charlie had gone sick, you see. He must have decided he'd had enough. And so he went sick, and I heard the MO. I didn't hear George and Charlie say anything. I heard the MO saying to him, "Sergeant Blackshaw, you're a bloody disgrace." He said, "The Army's paid you all these years as a sergeant to lead men, and now," he said, "you're crying off with a bloody hammer toe." And I thought that was quite a coincidence for that to happen. And incidentally, I never saw George and Charlie again. So obviously he must have got a regrade, you see. He must have said that he couldn't march with his toe, although as the MO had said that it caused him no bloody trouble so far. And we did a hell of a lot of marching in training, you know, before that. But I suppose they must have given him the benefit of the bloody doubt, and that was it. For most of the time that we were in Burma, we were short of cigarettes. Apart from the blokes who got cigarettes sent from home, you could order them and get them sent on a concession from certain tobacconists, and a lot of the fellows used to get them. It was only towards the end of the war that I wrote to ask my mother if she'd send me some cigarettes, and they used to arrive in these round tins of 50 players medium or senior service, and there'd be about half a dozen tins, so that kept the blokes going for a while. But I never did until more or less, you know, towards the last few months of the war. I remember I started to get a few up from home, because it meant writing in the first place, you know, and you were asking somebody to do something for you. But towards the end it got a bit desperate. If you were a smoker, you know, you got a bit fed up because your 7-cigarette issue didn't last long. But every cigarette was treasured. I remember that we got, the 7 cigarettes were usually 5 Woodbines and 2 Diresk Miners. Well, Diresk Miners weren't a popular cigarette because there was Turkish tobacco mixed in them. And unless you were used to smoking Turkish cigarettes, it was, blokes in the desert used to call it camel shit, I believe. You know, it wasn't a nice smoke. So I've read accounts since where people have claimed, especially people writing about the war, you know, not so much those that were involved in it, have said that there was no shortage of cigarettes, or they imply that cigarettes were no problem because there was the issue of 50 Victory B cigarettes. Well, Victory Bs were a cigarette, an Indian cigarette, and they were given bukshi on top of your normal ration by some Maharaja. I think it was the Maharaja of Mysore. He was that bloody wealthy that he could afford to give 50 cigarettes a week to all the troops in India. But as I say, that only applied to India. Now I've read since about the Burma campaign, and you know, you get the impression from what people have written that there was no shortage of cigarettes. But there was, because in the first place, Victory Bs never got to bloody Burma, or not the part I was in anyway. So you were still down to your 7 cigarettes. And the other thing was that, true enough, in India, as most of these people say, there were plenty of Victory B cigarettes, because you got your 50 a week, and then You could buy cigarettes at the canteen. There was no shortage of cigarettes in India if you could afford to buy them, and they were cheap enough. That wasn't the problem. The thing is that the word got round that the Victory V cigarettes were bloody rubbish. I suppose with them not being, they recognised brands like, Woodbine or Waits or Senior Service or Players, whatever. They weren't what fellas smoked, but personally I found that Victory V cigarettes weren't a bad smoke. It was the brainwashing and the bloody nonsense that was written about them that got around that nobody liked them. So consequently, there were plenty of cigarettes in India. There were plenty. You could pick up Victory V's anywhere because so many were thrown away. That's what it amounted to. You could pick up packets all over the bloody place where blokes had flung them, They only smoke them in desperation, and then they got the canteen and they buy a packet of Players Medium or whatever they wanted. But that wasn't the case in Burma. That's what I'm saying, and that's what I wanted to correct. This fallacy, that we were never short of cigarettes. In Burma we were. So that's why the blokes used to write home to send home for them, because once you got into Burma, you were cut off from your normal supplies, and the money wasn't the problem in Burma, by the way. Your pay just accumulated because you'd nothing to bloody well spend it on. Whereas in barracks in India, everybody was always short of money because army pay is pitifully bloody poor. And by the time you got halfway through the week, going to the canteen a couple of nights for just tea and a sandwich, because in the army you got nothing after tea time at night. There was no bloody supper. So if you had a drink of tea or a sandwich, anything at all, of course you paid for it. And it was the same with the cigarettes. The cigarettes were cheap, but of course you paid for them. So everybody, or most people, ran short of money about midweek. But the opposite was the case in Burma. The company clerk would come around periodically and he'd say to you, "Do you want any money?" And you'd say, "Go on, piss off." Because there was nothing to spend it on. Your money just accumulated all the time, you see.